The horse beneath him, a black stallion named Duke, moved steady despite the long miles. Cole sat tall in the saddle, his hat pulled low against the wind, his face worn like leather from the road. His eyes, cold, gray, and watchful, carried the weight of a man who'd seen too much. He hadn't meant to come back. Not to this place, not to the ranch where his father died, where everything he knew turned to ashes. But something inside him, a whisper, a pull he couldn't name, had drawn him home through the dust. When the old gate finally came into view, hanging from one hinge and creaking in the wind, Cole felt his stomach twist. The Maddox ranch looked more like a ghost than a home. The fences were broken, the barns slanted, and the fields that once fed cattle now fed only weeds. The land was dead, and it looked like it had been waiting for him. He slowed Duke near the porch, swung down from the saddle, and stood still for a long minute. The air was thick with silence, heavy and mean. Cole muttered under his breath, "Well, Pa, I'm back. But I don't reckon you'd be proud of what's left." He tied the reins loosely to the post and stepped toward the house. The porch boards groaned under his boots, the same groan he remembered from boyhood, only weaker now, like the house was tired of waiting. He reached for the door, gave it a push. The hinges screamed. Dust spilled out, thick and dry. The smell hit him, old wood, soot, and something faintly sour. But underneath it all, something else, something fresh, smoke. Cole froze. He lifted his head, sniffed the air again. No mistake. Somebody had lit a fire in his house. His hand slid down to his hip, resting on the worn handle of his Colt. Instinct moved before thought. He pushed the door wider, stepped inside. The sunlight streamed through the cracks in the roof, catching swirls of dust that danced like ghosts. His boots thudded on the floor, slow, careful. The place was a wreck, chairs broken, curtains torn, his father's old coat still hanging on a hook by the door, stiff with age. Then he saw it. A kettle sitting on the stove, still warm. Cole's jaw tightened. He wasn't alone. His voice came low, steady. "Whoever's in here, I ain't here for fighting, but you best show yourself before I start thinking you mean harm." The house stayed quiet. The wind outside rattled a shutter. Then, from the back room, came a sound, soft, like breath caught in a throat. Cole turned that way, slow. His revolver drawn now. He moved through the hall like a shadow, each step quiet, each muscle ready. A curtain near the corner trembled. "All right," he said. "Enough hiding. Come on out." For a moment, nothing. Then, the curtain shifted, and from behind it stepped a young woman. She looked no older than 20. Her hair was long, tangled, and the color of wheat after rain. She was barefoot, dressed in a faded white gown that had seen better days. Her eyes, big, gray, and unblinking, watched him like a cornered animal. Cole blinked, lowering his gun a fraction. "Well, I'll be," he muttered. "You're real." The woman flinched at his voice. Her hands gripped a rusty lantern like she might use it to fend him off. "I ain't here to hurt you," Cole said. "But you best start explaining what you're doing in my house." "Your house?" she asked, her voice soft, uncertain. "Was my father's once. Name's Maddox. Cole Maddox." The name seemed to shake her. Her gaze darted toward the fireplace, and her voice trembled when she said, "I've seen that name before." Cole frowned. "Where?" "On the cross," she whispered. Cole turned toward the hearth. There, leaning against the stone, was a wooden cross, carved rough and worn by age, and burned into it, faint but still there, was a name. John Maddox, his father. For a moment, Cole forgot to breathe. He'd buried his father himself, miles away by the creek. So what was that cross doing here? His voice came low, dangerous. Where'd you find that? She hesitated. It was near the old well, half buried. I thought it belonged here. Cole studied her. The dirt on her skin, the tear in her dress, the fear in her eyes. She wasn't just squatting here. She was hiding. You live here? He asked. She nodded faintly. I didn't mean to trespass. I just needed a place to stay. I was running from men. Bad men. Cole holstered his gun but didn't move closer. How many? 3, she said quietly. They found me near Hickory Creek. I ran as far as I could. He ran a hand over his jaw, thinking. The world was full of bad men and plenty roamed this land. But he couldn't quite figure her. Her voice was soft, but her eyes were steady, like someone who'd been through hell and learned not to scream. You can stay for the night, Cole said finally, but come morning you move on. This place don't take kindly to ghosts or trouble. Her eyes met his, and for a heartbeat, neither looked away. Thank you, she whispered. Cole gave a slow nod and sat near the window, cleaning the dust from his gun. The room fell quiet again, save for the crackle of the fire. After a while, he spoke. You got a name, miss? She hesitated. Evelyn, she said. Evelyn Grace. Evelyn Grace, he repeated, as if trying the words on his tongue. Pretty name for a place like this? She gave no answer. She just stared into the fire, her hands clasped together, trembling slightly. Cole leaned back, hat tipped low, eyes half closed. But he didn't sleep. He kept listening. Every shift of the wind, every creak in the floor. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about her, that she wasn't telling him everything. After a while, he said, You said you were running, from men. You sure they ain't tracking you here? She didn't look up. I don't know. Maybe. He stood, the chair legs screeching on the wood. Then I reckon I'll keep watch tonight. Evelyn's eyes followed him as he moved to the door. The firelight flickered against her face, soft and haunted. Cole, she said suddenly. He stopped, hand on the doorknob. Yeah. She rose slowly, the blanket falling from her shoulders. Her face was pale, her lips trembling, but her voice, it was steady. You're gonna have sex with me. The words struck like a whip in the quiet. Cole turned slow, his heart thudding. What did you just say? Her eyes filled with tears. You heard me? He stared, every muscle locked. Lady. I don't know what kind of madness. Please, she said, stepping forward, voice breaking. I need you to. Cole's hand fell to his side, hovering over the gun, not out of threat, but instinct. Something in her tone wasn't lust. It was desperation. He swallowed hard. You'd best explain that before I start thinking you've lost your mind. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, Because if you don't, they'll kill me. And just like that, the fire popped. The wind wailed through the window, and every ghost on that ranch seemed to wake. Cole Maddox stood there, caught between fear and pity, between the past and the storm now riding straight for his door. The wind blew colder that night, dragging a curtain of dust across the plains. Inside the ruined ranch house, the fire burned low, throwing long, crooked shadows across the floorboards. Cole Maddox sat by it, jaw locked, eyes fixed on the strange young woman who'd turned his world upside down. Evelyn Grace hadn't moved since she spoke those words. Her hands were clutched in her lap, her gaze low, as if she was afraid the fire itself might judge her. Cole could still hear her voice echoing in his head, Those wild, desperate words no sane woman should ever have said. He rubbed a hand over his face, the grit scratching against his skin. "Lady," he said finally, his voice hoarse, "you'd best explain yourself, for I think you've lost your wits." She lifted her head slowly. The flicker of the fire caught her eyes, making them glisten. "I told you," she whispered. "They'll kill me if you don't." Cole frowned. "Who will?" Her voice trembled. "The men from Hickory Creek. 3 of 'em. They're hunters, but not the kind that chase deer. They chase people." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "What did they want with you?" Evelyn's lips trembled, but the words came out in pieces. "They took me from the mission school. Said they needed a wife for their camp. All of them." Her breath hitched. "I ran before they could touch me. If they find me again, they'll finish what they started. And if they think I ain't pure no more, maybe they'll leave me alone." Cole went still. The sound of the wind outside seemed to fade. He understood now. She hadn't spoken out of lust. She'd spoken out of fear. He rose to his feet, pacing the room, his boots creaking with every step. "You're saying you'd rather ruin yourself than let him take you?" Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't understand." "I understand plenty," Cole muttered. "I've seen what men like that do." He stopped by the window, staring out at the open dark. The plain stretched far, silent but alive with hidden things, wolves, wind, and men who rode with evil in their hearts. He looked back at her, softer now. "You ain't got to do that to survive, Evelyn." Her voice cracked. "I don't know what else to do." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The fire spat, and the clock of distant thunder rolled across the far hills. Cole reached down, picked up his revolver, and spun the cylinder. 6 rounds. Clean. He snapped it shut and set it on the table. "Then you let me worry about 'em," he said. "If those bastards come here, they'll find me waiting." Evelyn's breath hitched. "You'd fight for me?" He met her eyes. "Don't rightly know why yet, but yeah, I reckon I would." Cole didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window, the rifle laid across his knees, watching the moon slide slow through thin clouds. Every sound set his nerves on edge, the groan of timber, the scrape of branches against the roof. Behind him, Evelyn dozed fitfully, mumbling names he didn't know. Agnes, Mary, something about a bell tower. He didn't ask. He just listened. He remembered the night his father's ranch burned, the same 3 crossed bones marks scorched into the barn door. The sheriff had blamed bandits, but Cole never believed it. He knew better now. Those men from Hickory Creek weren't new to him. They were the same devils who'd destroyed everything he loved. By the time dawn painted the horizon red, Cole was ready. The first thing he saw that morning were the tracks. 3 sets of hoof prints cut deep into the dust, still fresh with dew. They led straight toward the house. He kicked open the door. "Evelyn, get up!" She blinked awake, disoriented. "What is it?" "Company," he said, checking his rifle. Her face turned white. "They found me." Cole's voice dropped to a low growl. "Looks like they found me too." He tossed her a small revolver from his saddlebag. "Ever fired one of these?" She shook her head. "Then stay low. Don't shoot unless you see the whites of their eyes." Outside, the sound of hooves grew louder. 3 riders coming fast. Dust rose behind them like smoke. Cole stepped onto the porch as they reined in their horses a few yards away. He recognized their faces at once. Scars, sneers, the same bone cross mark on their jackets. The leader spat in the dirt. "Well, well." Cole Maddox. Thought you was long gone. Guess hell spit you back out. Cole didn't move. Seems it ain't through with me yet. The man's grin faded. We ain't here for you. We just came for the girl. Hand her over and maybe you keep breathing. Cole spit into the dust. Come take her. The leader's eyes narrowed. For a second, no one moved. Then a hand dropped to a gun belt. Cole's rifle cracked first. The front rider jerked back and fell from his horse before his fingers even touched his trigger. The other two split. One to the barn, the other toward the well. Bullets tore through the yard, shattering wood and glass. Evelyn ducked low behind the table, hands over her ears, sobbing quietly. Cole moved like a ghost through his own house. Swift, silent, sure. He caught the second man near the barn door. 2 shots, 1 scream, then silence. The last rider burst through the side window, pistol drawn. Cole spun and fired once more. The man crashed to the floor, his gun skittering across the boards. The fight was over as quick as it started. Cole stood in the center of the room, smoke curling from his rifle, chest heaving. The smell of gunpowder hung thick in the air. He looked to Evelyn. You all right? She nodded, trembling. All 3? All 3, he said. They won't hurt nobody no more. She looked at the bodies and then at him. You knew them, didn't you? Cole's eyes darkened. I knew their kind. They're the same men who burned this ranch. Her breath caught. You're sure? He nodded slow. Same mark. 3 crossed bones. I reckon fate brought 'em back here to finish what they started. Evelyn was silent for a moment, then said something that made his skin crawl. I didn't just find this place by chance, Cole. He turned to her. What are you saying? She stepped closer to the fire, the light catching the edges of her hair. I knew about this ranch. I knew who lived here once. Your father. He came to the mission years ago. He told the sisters he had a daughter out in the world. Said he'd lost her. Cole blinked, unsure if he'd heard right. My father? Evelyn nodded, eyes shining with tears. I was that child. For a long moment, the only sound was the soft crack of the fire. Cole felt the blood drain from his face. His gun slipped from his hand and hit the floor with a dull thud. He stared at her, the woman who'd begged him for something unspeakable, the woman he'd nearly turned away, and realized why her eyes had felt so familiar. They were his father's eyes. Evelyn spoke again, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't know who you were that night, Cole. I swear it. I was running from death, not searching for you. Cole took a step back, the truth crashing over him like a storm. Every question he ever had about his father, every unanswered pain, led right to this moment. He looked around the room, at the broken walls, the ashes, the cross by the fireplace, and felt the past closing in like a tight noose. Why'd you come back here? He asked quietly. Because this was my home once, she said. I thought maybe if I came back, I'd find the man he used to be. Instead, I found you. Cole stared at her for a long time, then sighed, the sound rough and tired. Seems the Lord's got a cruel way of making kin find each other. Evelyn wiped her eyes and looked toward the door where the sunlight spilled in across the dust. Maybe he just wanted to end a curse. Cole didn't answer. He walked past her, out onto the porch. The air was cool now, the sky clear. He watched the wind bend the grass and thought how strange it was that the worst things in life could lead a man home. Behind him, Evelyn stood in the doorway, hands folded together like she was afraid to breathe. Cole, she said softly. He didn't turn. Yeah? What happens now? He tipped his hat lower against the sun. Now, we bury the dead. The sun rose over the Texas plains like a forge fire, turning the dust into gold and blood. The wind was gentle now, carrying the smell of gunpowder and death away from the Maddox ranch. 3 men lay buried beneath the cottonwoods, their graves still raw and new. Cole Maddox stood by them with his hat pressed to his chest. The world felt quieter after the storm, but not lighter. Some weights never lift. When he finally stepped back into the house, the silence felt different. Thick, almost sacred. Evelyn Grace was still there, sitting near the fireplace where the wooden cross leaned against the stone. She looked worn out, her eyes swollen from crying, her dress streaked with dirt and ash. Yet somehow she looked stronger than she had the night before. Cole placed his rifle by the wall and took a seat across from her. For a long while, neither spoke. The flames whispered between them. Then he said quietly, "All right, Evelyn Grace. You've had 2 nights under this roof. You've seen blood spilled and ghosts stirred. Now I need the whole truth, every bit of it." She didn't look up right away. When she finally did, there was something new in her eyes. A kind of calm, like she'd made peace with whatever she was about to say. "I told you I was born here," she began softly. "That wasn't a lie." Cole frowned. "You said that, but this land's been in my blood since my grandpappy broke the first soil. How could you? Because your father was my father too." The words hit harder than any bullet. Cole froze, mouth partway open. "You best not play games with me, girl." "I'm not." She reached for the silver locket around her neck, the same one he'd noticed before. The clasp was broken, but the picture inside was clear enough. A younger version of John Maddox, smiling stiffly beside a woman in a maid's apron. "That's my mother," Evelyn whispered. "She worked for him before the fire. He promised her a better life, but when folks started talking, he sent her away. She left carrying me." Cole leaned back slowly, the chair groaning beneath him. He'd spent years hating his father for the drink, for the temper, for the fire that ruined everything. But this was a new wound. "You're saying my pa had you hidden away all this time?" "He came to the mission once," she said. "Told the sisters he'd lost something he couldn't bear to face. Sister Agnes said he meant me. After he died, she kept his secret to protect his name." Cole ran a hand over his face. "Lord help me." Evelyn's voice trembled. "When I came here, I didn't know you were his son, I swear it. I only knew the land called to me. When I found the cross by the well, I carved his name into it myself. I wanted him to rest." Cole stared at her. This frightened girl who'd stumbled into his past and ripped it open like an old wound. He wanted to be angry, but he couldn't. Not now. "You got his eyes," he muttered, "and his curse." "What curse?" she asked. He stood and walked to the window. The morning light spilled across the room, turning the dust in the air to gold. "He couldn't hold on to nothing good," Cole said. "Not land, not love, not family. And now look at me, carrying the same blood." Evelyn rose, stepping closer. "Maybe you can break it." He turned then, meeting her eyes. "You think so?" "I know so." For a moment, the world outside faded. There was only the quiet crackle of the fire and the ache of 2 souls bound by the same past. Cole nodded slowly. "All right, we'll start by burying the rest of this nightmare. The men outside, the ghosts inside, all of it." They spent the day digging. The Texas sun burned high and cruel, but neither complained. Cole worked the shovel, muscles slick with sweat, while Evelyn gathered stones and wildflowers for markers. When the last grave was filled, Cole leaned on the handle and looked out over the plain. "This ranch has seen enough death," he said. "Time it saw something grow again." Evelyn brushed dirt from her hands. "You'll stay?" He nodded. "Rebuild what's left. Plant something. Maybe give the land a new name." "What name?" she asked. "Maddox and Grace Ranch," he said after a moment. "You and me. Seems fittin'." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "You'd do that for me?" "For both of us." They stood there in the fading light, the graves behind them and the horizon ahead. The wind shifted, cool and sweet, carrying the smell of rain. That night, thunder rolled in from the west. Rain came heavy, drumming on the roof until it leaked in little rivers through the cracks. Cole set out pots to catch it, then sat on the porch with a cup of black coffee while the storm cooled the earth. Evelyn joined him, wrapped in a blanket too big for her shoulders. "When you came through that door," she said, "I thought you were a ghost." Cole gave a short laugh. "Darling, I reckon I was. Just took me this long to figure it." She smiled, faint but real, and they sat in silence watching lightning crawl across the horizon. For the first time since he'd come home, the air felt alive again. Days turned to weeks. Cole patched the roof, fixed the fences, and cleaned the barn until his hands bled. Evelyn tended to the small garden she planted near the porch, tiny green shoots pushing through the soil. Little by little, the Maddox ranch began to look like a home again. Word spread through Abilene about the cowboy rebuilding his burned ranch with a young woman by his side. Some folks said she was his wife, others his niece. Nobody knew the truth, and neither of them cared to explain. At night they'd sit together, sometimes talking, sometimes not. The silence between them grew easy. It wasn't built on secrets anymore, but on peace. One evening, as the sun melted behind the hills, Evelyn looked up from the porch rail where she'd been watching the wind ripple through the grass. "Cole," she said softly, "do you ever think your father's still watching?" Cole tilted his hat back, staring at the sky. "Reckon he is," he said. "And if he is, I hope he finally sees something good come out of his sins." Evelyn smiled. "He does. You're standing proof." He chuckled low. "No, darling, you are." The wind caught her hair then, sending it fluttering like wheat in the sun. She looked so alive that it hurt to see. Cole didn't know what the future held, but he knew he wouldn't ride away again. Not from her. Not from this land. When darkness fell, the stars came out bright and endless, the kind of sky only the West could make. They sat there under it, two broken souls mended by time and truth. Cole glanced toward the graves beneath the cottonwood. The wind hummed low through the branches like a hymn. "Reckon the past don't die," he said quietly. "It just waits for a man to come home." Evelyn turned toward him, her gray eyes warm. "And when he does?" He smiled, slow and tired but full of peace. "Maybe the land forgives him." They said no more after that. The rain from the earlier storm had left the air clean and sweet, and the scent of wet earth filled the night. Cole reached for his hat, set it on the porch rail, and leaned back, listening to the world breathe. For the first time in years, there was no anger in him, no ghosts whispering his name, just the creak of the chair, the hum of crickets, and the quiet heartbeat of a life beginning again. Out across the plain, a lantern glowed in the window of the rebuilt ranch house, a single light standing against the dark. Travelers riding the Abilene Road said you could see it for miles, shining steady as a promise. Some said the ranch was haunted. Others said it was blessed. But those who truly knew the story just called it what it was. A place where sin and sorrow had turned into mercy. And somewhere inside that house, under that endless Texas sky, the wind carried a faint laugh, a man's rough, a woman's soft, the sound of peace finally taking root. Because even on cursed ground, forgiveness can still grow, and even in the dust, love can still find its way home.